Hi, everyone, and welcome to our weekly Power Lounge. This is your place to hear authentic conversations from those who have power to share. My name is Amy Vaughan, and I am the owner and Chief Empowerment Officer of Together Digital, a diverse and collaborative community of women who work in digital and choose to share their knowledge, power, and connections. You can join the movement at togetherindigital.com. And today we are joined by someone who is redefining what it means to build both purpose and profit in business. Ann McNeil is the founder and president of MCO Construction and Services. She has blazed trails as Southern California's first Black women-owned construction firms while simultaneously mastering the art of niche monetization. As a master strategist and transformational speaker and a certified Napoleon Hill Foundation coach, Ann brings a unique perspective on how focusing on your niche and developing unshakable mindset and aligning wealth with legacy can create sustainable success. Through her work with Constructively Speaking Inc., she has helped countless women and entrepreneurs connect to their deepest purpose with measurable prosperity. Ann's approach isn't just about building businesses, it's about leading and building legacies. And today, she's going to share with you, our amazing listeners, on how intentional niche selections and mindset mastery can transform not just your income, but your entire impact. So welcome to the Power Lounge, Ann. We are thrilled to have you here.
Oh, wow. Thrilled to be here. And I'm excited in discussing this. I call it niche to be richer with your audience. So it's exciting.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Me too. I'm sure some people were kind of scratching their heads like, oh, she's in construction. But I think that's such a profound testament to like the work that you're doing. Because I mean, talk about an industry that is not diverse. I worked when I was in my 20s. I was kind of in like a gap year at college, and I worked at a construction company. And oh my gosh, Anne, it was awful. It was miserable. I won't go into it because I don't want to take up the whole hour, but any woman out there who is in an industry such as this, like I have seen firsthand what things in that industry are like. So again, kudos to you. So on that note, like I said in your bio, you have built one of Florida's first women-owned, Black-owned construction firms. And then, taking what you've learned, the good and the bad, and you've been using that to coach others, like you said, on niche monetization. What was it that made you first realize that focusing deeply on a specific niche was more powerful than to serve everyone? I think because that's like something we do as marketers and as women. We're like, we want everyone to like us. We want everyone to love us. We want everyone to buy our product or service. But what was that moment that you realized, or what kind of led to that moment of realization?
Well, Amy, for me, it was exactly 9 p.m. December 31st, 1970.
You knew. When I asked that question, people were like, I don't remember the exact moment, but you're like, no, I remember the date and the time. Okay, continue. Sorry.
I remember the day. I remember the time. I remember the location, because when you say pivotal moment, it was, and I still get those feelings of sitting at my dining room table at 9 p.m. when my husband and friends decided to go out and celebrate the new year. I decided to stay home and read a book. And actually, I brought a version of it here with me. This is Think and Grow Rich. And I had the version, the little yellow book with the white book with the yellow border. But I decided that night to stay home and begin to read this book, because I just couldn't go out and party one more night knowing that I felt broken. And so when you asked the question, what was the pivotal moment? That was it, because as I began to read the book, Amy, the author asked me 3 questions, but he gave me 6 steps to riches. And those 3 questions have led me into a niche area of my business and my life that now I share with everybody. And I help elevate women in particular in their business and their life to go to the next level with these. And the first question, if it's okay if I can share.
Yes, please.
Okay. The first question he asked me in the book, he said, and I made it personal to me. Personal. He said, Ann McNeil, how much money do you want? And I'd never been asked that question before. The second question he asked me in the book, it's in the very beginning of the book, in the Desire Principle, he said, what are you going to do in return for the money? You know, some kind of product or service you're going to sell. I had no answer. I just kept reading. But the third question he asked me was, by what date? Those were the questions. And then the number 4 was to write out my plan of action. And this is where the moment shift for me. I went back to question 1. Now I'm home alone, friends and family, they're gone out celebrating this New Year's night. I went back to number 1 and I said, you know, I'm home alone. Why don't I just answer the question? How much money do I really want? I have a good job and I'm doing okay. And so as I sat there and I said, you know, well, how much money do I want? I said, you know, it would be nice. This is 1979 now, Amy.
Yeah.
Don't judge me. Your audience, don't judge me.
No.
But I said $1,000. I'd like to have $1,000 saved a year.
Yeah.
Question number 2, he asked me to give an exact date. So this was December 31st, 1979. I said it would be great to have saved $1,000 December 31st, 1980. But when I got to the next step where he asked me now to describe exactly what I was going to do, and this for your audience and your listeners, this is where the work begins. Because I said, in my mind, I make this much, I spend this much. I got a negative number. I decided to take a sheet of paper and a pen and write it down. I make this much, I spend this much. The negative number got bigger. I decided to get a calculator in case I was missing some income. I mean, we know how much money we make when we have a job.
Yeah.
To the penny. I make this much. I spend this much. The negative number got bigger because I remember some expenses that I had that I did not take into consideration. So, Amy, I actually went through this process of pulling out 11 months of canceled checks. I refused to acknowledge how broke I was. That is the journey that leads to the idea of niching to be richer, because as I sat there that night and I took 11 months, and I have an undergraduate degree in accounting at the time, working on a master's degree, planning on getting a PhD. That's where I was at this moment in time. So I said, January, I took a sheet of paper and I just made a handmade spreadsheet and I wrote date, payee amount, and across the top, where was I spending the money? January, a negative. February, a negative. March, a negative. Now, I can go through the end of the year. They were all negatives. When I got to the end of November, I realized that if I continued doing what I was doing, I was going to continue getting what I was getting. And I decided that night to sit there and figure out, how could I make more money with my existing job? And I figured that if I got a part-time job with my job, I would pay for the privilege of working. So now it's 9 o'clock. I sat there, Amy, until 4 o'clock that morning. Now the door opens. My husband and friends are coming in from celebrating the New Year. I am still sitting there, but now I'm crying. And I like to always ask my audience and my coaching clients when I share this, and I ask if anybody can guess, why am I crying? You want to take a guess, Amy, why I'm crying?
Did you figure it out? Did you
No.
get the numbers? No?
No.
The opposite? I'm
No.
such an optimist.
And I like to ask all of your audience, if you're listening live or in the future, write in the chat, why do you think I was crying?
Yeah, drop it in the chat, audience.
Drop
We've
it in
got
the
some folks
chat,
listening.
drop it in the chat, drop it in the chat. The reason I was crying was because I felt hopeless. And I think I know from my own journey and my own story that I could not shift until I realized and accepted where was I at that point in time.
Yeah.
And now when I look back and I look forward, I realized that was and then you asked an excellent question. The pivotal point for me was that point of realizing that I had to do something different.
Yeah.
And that was the journey for me to realize, yes, I had a really good corporate job at that point in time, but something as simple as getting out of debt and saving an extra $1,000 is what put me in the path of understanding I needed to start a business and do something in addition. And I'm talking to those of us who are professionals in a job. Please don't quit your job.
Right.
Do
Right.
something in addition to your job
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur before you become an
Mm.
entrepreneur. So that
Yep.
was the pivotal point for me
I
when I
love it.
realized I needed to do something that
Thank you
became
for
what I now
sharing
call
that
niche to be rich.
story.
Yes, my pleasure.
Well, and it's one of those things, right? Because how many of us are sitting in jobs that feel like, oh, I'm comfortable, I'm getting paid enough, but it's not until you take that time to look inward and put something on paper and say something as simple as saving $1,000 a year, and you can't make that math work. It sucks, right? It's kind of like therapy in some ways, right? I know people who want to avoid therapy because they don't want to face the truth and then have it said out loud or put on a paper. People avoid journaling for these reasons, but there has been no one that I've ever had as a friend, a mentor, a guest on this show, a member within Together Digital that has never not said that that's a part of the process of, finding that sense of freedom and focus and going after what it is that you want. I think we're always kind of waiting for the silver bullet, but sometimes it's literally doing what you did and kind of sitting out the social, evening and taking 4 or 5 hours and really truly looking at what you have and putting it on paper. So thank you for giving us that. There's the guiding principles and then that vulnerable story. I love it. That's like classic Together Digital type MO of like, inspirational, but like, here's the hard truth of what I had to face to get there. And here's how I did it. And I knew that when we talked to Ann, I was like, this is going to be such a good conversation. And, we had somebody drop in overwhelmed into the chat. So yeah, she was definitely feeling it. I was optimistic. You figured it out. You're going to go. But it's true that the reality is that's probably where most of us would be sitting right now if we did the exercise that you just explained. I love that so much. And there's a lot of women within the organization. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say, live listeners, like keep using the chat for comments and questions. I've got a number of questions here for Ann, but you're our listeners. We want to know what you would like to know based on where you're at to make the most of our time here with Ann. But a lot of our members are entrepreneurs. And often, I see it in our Slack chat. I see it or hear it in their peer groups. They struggle with this idea of leaving money on the table when they consider narrowing their focus. They think in order to make all the money, they have to do all the things, right? How do you help what advice would you give to, women entrepreneurs, whomever, to overcome that scarcity mindset when they're kind of choosing and settling in on their niche?
Thank you so very much for the question. I have a framework that consists of really 5 different areas and businesses that we're in that we should niche.
Mm-hmm.
The first is your craft, and you hit it on the head when you talked about, the peer groups in the chat and the individuals who are part of this phenomenal community.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the first business that we're in is our craft, our niche business, whether it's your profession. And I take my profession for an example. I'll use this as an example. I'm a licensed general contractor for over 40 plus years, since 1980-ish. Date myself.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were a painter, now I'm not just going to use this example to help your clients, right? If I were a painter and I'm in the painting business, am I an expert painter?
Mm-hmm.
That is for our listeners. Think about whatever it is you do for your business.
Mm-hmm.
Are you an expert, and are you known as an expert in that business, that craft? Secondly, I believe the business that we're in now, mind you, the profession is a business in and of and by itself. So I'll use painters again. There's a professional painters association.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a member of your professional association in your niche craft or your niche profession? The second business I like to encourage all of our clients, my coaching clients in particular, that we're in, and we don't often think of it as a business in and of itself, is the business of the operations of your craft.
Yeah.
The business of the operations of your craft. And when you think about all of the different nuances of being in business, from your HR, your payroll,
Mm-hmm.
your taxes, your accounts receivables, your payables, all of the platforms that are required for your particular niche industry in terms of the business, right? So as a painter, there's certain things that I must do as a painter that may be different than if I were an artist in terms of the operations of my business.
Yeah.
And treating that as a business by itself. But then we get into the business of the relationships. And oftentimes, and I like to share with my clients to read something in every single area of your business. So let's take relationships, for example. I'm asking your clients, put in the chat, and your members of your organization, Amy, put in the chat, what's the last best favorite relationship book you've read? You see, why? Because the relationships in your particular craft are very different. And oftentimes we don't think about that as a business.
Right.
Because most of our business comes from people that we know, that we like, and that we trust.
Right.
But what am I reading? One of my favorites authors is Jeffrey Gitomer.
Okay.
Jeffrey Gitomer has little books of sales connections, and they come in colors, and your audience can, you can Google him. But we often think of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a regular for many people. But think about whatever it is that you need to read in your particular industry for those connections to get business in your industry.
Yep.
The next niche area I encourage all of us to think about is the industry. Now, let me go back to painting. As a painter, imagine I am Ann McNeil. I'm a contractor, and I come to a conference with contractors, and I run into 3 painters. Painter number 1, I say, what do you do? The painter says, and here goes the niching. The painter says, listen, I'm a painter. I paint everything. What do you have? I paint houses. I paint businesses. I paint school. I paint everything. Then I say, okay, painter number 2, what do you do? He says, I'm a painter. What do you paint? Well, listen, I paint roads. I paint highways. Now, I am a school painter. I'm a school builder. I build schools. Now, this is an example. I build schools. Now, painter number 3, I say, painter number 3, what do you do? And painter number 3 says, listen, I only paint schools. I only paint schools for Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. I live in Florida, and Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County is a part of our state. Now, my schools that I build are located in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. Now, painter number 3 only paints schools and has been in the school painting business for 20 years. Which of the painters would I use? Can we put it in the chat? Is it number 1, number 2, and number 3? Now, I say that laughingly, but we'd be surprised when we think of our business and our craft. We want to be all things to all people, and then we wonder why we're nobody to everybody. Why is it that the person won't call me back? Why is it the person won't respond to my email? And have you studied the business of the client you're proposing to? What industry are they in? What craft are they in? What associations and organizations, professionally and civic-wise, are they a member of? And the next business I like to encourage all of us that we're in, but seldom do we discuss this, and this is a part of my framework, and that is the business of the money. What does that mean, Ann McNeil? Well, the business of the money, have you studied where's the money in your business? For example, if you're a painter and you're painting in the healthcare industry, what's the margins of profit? If you're painting in the facilities, which are schools, what's that margin of profit? Industry-wise, if you're painting and you're painting in airports, what's the margin of profit? What's the margin of profit if you're painting in the industry of water? Now, as you're listening to me, think about the industries that you're in. Where's the money in that industry? And until we drill down into the numbers, do we really know if we're working in the right industry that generates the highest profit margin? Now, once we are able to do that, I want to come back to the business of money.
Mm-hmm.
Long time ago, Amy, I did save that money. So let me go back to that story. I did save that money. It took me about 10 years to get out of debt.
Yeah.
Okay. And finally, I was able to save $15,000. But what I did not know, Amy, is that I did not know how to make the money make money. So I gave that,
Ah.
yes, I gave that money to someone never to see it again.
Mm-hmm.
We don't usually talk about that.
No, you're right. We don't.
And when I gave that money to that person and never to see it again, I realized that that person knew I knew absolutely nothing about investing. So what do you do when you're taken? I was upset with the person, but I was more upset, Amy, with myself for not knowing how to properly save and how
Mm-hmm.
to invest in
Yes.
right. And so what do you do when you do that? I decided to start an investment club.
Mm-hmm.
And I pulled together some friends from our mastermind group and started my first investment club. Became a volunteer. But the point I'm making about making
Yeah.
money, I learned the value and the benefit of a $20 bill
Mm-hmm.
invested over a long period of time in the product or service that we know. So as we listen and think about niching to be richer,
Yeah.
I now, after 30, almost 40 years of investing, I am now learning that I will never outwork my money. My
Mm-hmm.
money, making money from saving, investing in our Roth IRAs and our retirement and our
Yeah.
investment accounts will always, Amy, make more money than I
Mm-hmm.
will ever make working for the money.
Working for it, making your money work for you. Oh my God, Anne,
Exactly.
that's amazing. There's so much to unpack there. And I think it just shows like how deep the scarcity mindset goes because it's like, okay, when you are finally making the money and you're saving the money, I don't know about y'all. And we've had some podcast episodes talking about our relationship with money as women. And, I learned recently there's such a thing as like poverty trauma and whatnot. So a lot of us sit on that money and we are afraid to do what you're saying is like invest. And I think the opportunity there is not to only just invest and make your money work for you, but I also have an amazing friend, mentor, and, coach for me. Her name is Sue Baggett, and she's a part of Queen City Angels. And her whole mission is all about getting women to become micro investors because they will get that money back in return. And women make good, safe bets, but then also women invest in more diverse businesses than men tend to do. And so there's so many good pieces of advice in that. I'm always so glad when we're here and doing this and it's recorded. So if y'all need to go back and listen, there was some gems in there for sure. So fantastic answer. And I'm kind of curious too to dig into your coaching and, within coaching, obviously a lot of what you're trying to do there is help people achieve a certain level of mindset because, the person that's getting in the way of yourself the most is usually you, right?
Yes,
um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
and you're a certified Napoleon Hill Foundation coach. So you clearly understand the power of mindset and business success. I'm kind of curious, what was the most, or what has been some of the most, or the most critical mindset shifts that you've seen transform either you or someone else's ability to find success, to monetize their niche, in any of those types of things?
Absolutely. And I actually wrote a book on this in terms of understanding and the realization. And I love books, I love reading, and this is it. It's called The Fact That You Must Have a Dream to Have a Dream Come True. And Amy, I wrote this, I started writing it about 20 years ago and realized that I'm in the dream in terms of understanding my spiritual area. What is my desire in that area? Go back to the first principle of Napoleon Hill's philosophy. The first principle is desire. What is it that we're desiring? And
Mm.
I am now focusing with my clients on every area of your life. What is it that you're desiring for your spiritual? How about your family? How about your finances? How about your health?
Mm-hmm.
How about your education? How about that business or your profession? And for those of us that are entrepreneurs, you must have a dream to have a dream come true in your business. Are you going to legacy it? You're going to sell it? What does that look like?
Yeah.
But what about the recreational area of your life? I'm just coming back Amy, off of a 5.5, almost 6 month world cruise, Crystal World Cruise, the beginning of,
Awesome.
yes, this year.
Love
And
it.
I say that because what's the dream that we hold dear
Mm-hmm.
for the recreation area of your life? What
Mm-hmm.
about the civic area and giving and
Mm-hmm.
serving and legacy leaving and a life of significance living? And then finally, what about the creativity? I've mentioned a couple of books and I've written 5. But again, what does that look like for each of you in your
Yes.
business, but also in your life? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, going back to your question, it is having a dream
Mm-hmm.
in order to have a dream come true. You can call that dream a desire. You
Yes, I
can
like
call
that.
it a purpose or a passion. But that's what I'm realizing,
Mm-hmm.
that for any of us struggling with self confidence,
Mm-hmm.
self worth, I believe that when we serve through our business
Yes.
and through other areas, we tend to serve higher for others than we would
Yes.
for ourselves. And that tends to increase our self confidence.
Agree. Yeah, no, it is a great way. If you ever want to give yourself a boost, find a way to give back. I've always been in alignment and agree with that wholeheartedly. And I'm such a language and a word nerd, as a lot of our listeners know. And I love that you didn't just say, what do you want? Right? I think sometimes want implies like more surface level, right? And not as deep. When you say, what do you desire? I'm like, oh, I want to think about that a little more. I'm not just going to talk about the cute pair of shoes I saw the other day. And I was like, that's a want, right? And my kids talk about that a lot. Is it a want or a need, right? It's a parent coaching thing that gets thrown around a lot to us, like elder millennial parents and younger millennial parents, I guess. But it's like, I love that. I love that idea of what do you desire, and to sit with that and look at it across your all aspects of your life. I think, if you're in that moment of, and a lot of people are there right now, right? I get it. The world's hard right now, and kind of just sitting and thinking mostly about what you want versus about what you desire. It's such a different mindset and mind frame, to kind of look at things. And again, as women, I don't think we often think about that. We're usually focused on how and where and when we're unhappy, versus sitting and taking the intentional time to say, what do I desire? I love it. I think that's a great takeaway for all of us to kind of think about this weekend as we head into the week, since we're at a Friday. Um, and I love that, like, your work spans. We have a lot of multi-potentialites within Together Digital in the community and our listeners. So we all can appreciate when someone comes into the room that does both coaching and construction. So obviously 2 very different industries. How is operating, in completely different niches informed your approach on how you help others and how to monetize theirs? Because, yeah, those are just so, like, I mean, they're not completely opposite. I could see where they might overlap, but day to day looks pretty different on both of those, types of business.
But what I'm learning though, Amy, is mindset neutralizes all of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, think about it. Mindset neutralizes all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you really think about how do we transition from one niche industry to
Mm-hmm.
another, to another, to another, it's mindset and being able to see with the vision that my skill set oftentimes are driven by my mindset.
Yeah. I love that. Your skill set's driven by your mindset.
Exactly. And so
I love it.
right. And so it allows us to transition. So to go back to your question, for me, I am teaching what I've learned and I'm learning.
Yeah.
I'm teaching what I've learned in my construction
Mm-hmm.
career. From the construction, I started a consulting company.
Mm-hmm.
From the consulting, I started a speaking company. And along the way, I started an international mastermind association for
Mm-hmm.
mindset, teaching individuals how to walk through the book Think and Grow Rich over and over and over again, and
Yes.
utilizing the principles to increase their mindset,
Mm-hmm.
to increase their bottom line, utilizing the framework. But then
Yeah.
also, I started an organization in my niche industry of construction called the National Association of Black Women in Construction. And with that, Amy, we're able to take women from all areas into a community. And you think about, you may say, okay, well, we're in a different community. But when you think about construction,
Yeah.
it crosses and includes everything from healthcare
Mm-hmm.
to technology
Yeah.
to in every single thing you could think of. Someone would say, well, I sell water. What does that have to do with construction? Guess what?
Yeah.
We drink a lot of water.
Right.
We wear makeup. We wear
Yeah.
clothes. And so oftentimes we don't look at how these industries connect, how the skill sets connect. And so I have a friend who sells Mary Kay. And I asked her about her clients, and she's struggling. And I said, guess what everybody has? She said, what? I said, a face. Men have faces.
Yeah.
Women have faces. So when you think of niching to be richer, think about who is willing to invest in their face. I mean, but my point coming back to it, mindset, but it starts with me within and knowing that I'm worthy, but am I willing? And you hit the nail on the head earlier in this conversation. We talked about journaling. I have a daily date with myself, Amy, and journaling is a part of that.
Yeah.
Every day. So that's what I think in terms of when we look at how do we connect those dots.
That's fantastic. Yeah, definitely. I think the mindset over skill set. I think that's so fantastic. There's this framework too that another mentor of mine told me once in like mentoring and coaching, or even working with other people or people that work with me for me, is like it's a skill, hill, or will, and you can teach skill. And sometimes there are hills and you might not see the hill, but they do. So it could be something personal, something outside the office that's going on. Cause it's like kind of a framework for when you have somebody on your team that you're maybe managing or mentoring that's struggling, and it's either skill, hill, or will. And he says, if it's, skill, you can remedy that pretty easy. If it's a hill, it might be a temporary situation. It might mean you just need to do some digging, open up the door for vulnerability. And if it's a will, then you need to just, he's like, hire slow, fire fast, Amy. And I'm like, run, it's so hard. I want to make everybody happy and whole. But like you said, when you aren't narrowly focused, you are only taking yourself off that path to success by, all of that meandering. And that kind of leads me to my next question, which, so many of us feel it doesn't really matter the kind of work that you're doing. I think, these last few generations, especially, it's so important for us now that we're not, as a labor society as we used to be. I think a lot of us want purpose in the work that we do if we have that privilege. And so I'm kind of curious for those who are trying to connect both purpose and prosperity. Do you have any examples of how maybe a client of yours or even you have aligned to a deeper sense of purpose within their niche while still managing to kind of break through and see some really good results for that? Because I think sometimes we think, oh gosh, what is it that I heard? Another term recently that got me was called noble poverty, where we feel like we got to give it all away for free, or it's like we're not doing good things if it means we actually prosper from it. I was like, ouch, man, that hurts.
Oh, yes, I have a story.
Great.
I felt for years when I was transitioning into my construction business, I was utilizing the mastermind principle to grow. And my nonprofit was being utilized to help individuals to grow their business and their life. And so I thought of that passion and that purpose as a not-for-profit. You don't need to get paid.
Yeah.
And a friend called me and said, I'm going to be speaking at this event. Can you come? I said, yes. And when I walked in, I had a seat. She was speaking from the stage, and she talked about the work I was doing and everything, and how many lives it was positively impacting, and my not-for-profit. And the coordinator of the event, unknowingly to me, went to my website, downloaded everything, and put her name on it.
What?
Wait, I'm coming to your question. Do I have a story? I have a number, but I'll just
I'm about ready to throw off my headphones. Where are they at? Where are they live? Continue.
And so my friend later on called me. She said, "Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. The person that I invited you to this event, I went on, she invited me to something. I went on her website and it was everything that you do, but she's charging $1,500. I was doing it for free."
Oh, wow.
And so I said, you're kidding me. Now, fire. Yes, fire, that other fire. So she said, she's having an event and you should come. And I said, okay. And I went on and I saw all of my information on her website. And I said, okay, I'm going to buy a table to go to.
I love it.
I want to see and hear everything.
Front row.
Now, this story is not going where you want it to go. So if you're listening to me and you're thinking one thing, stay to the end of this story. This is why all things truly do work together for good. I don't care who we are. We must look for the good in it all.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this for free, because I have a passion and a purpose, and it's free. I got my booth. I'm set up in my booth. I have my books, my Napoleon Hill this and thing, right, all this stuff in my booth. And people are salting me about, but they're not stopping. She gets up on the stage and she is selling. The line was out the door of individuals who wanted my material that she was marketing with her name on it. And I'm standing there in total shock. Now, the end of the story. A lady walks to my table. Now, for those of you that's listening on the podcast, I am an African-American female, in case you cannot see me. Lady walks into my table. Everybody, majority of the people in the room did not look like me. Lady walks to my table. She's African-American female. She looks like me and she says, oh, you're with this Thinking Grow Rich? I said, yes. She said, sound like the same thing. So she said, can I get your information? And we changed information. Her sister is in line to pay.
Yeah.
So then the lady comes back to me and she said, so tell me a little bit about this. And I tell her, she said, oh, I would like to, see how we could mastermind together. Mm-hmm. Long story very short, that lady and her sister lived across the street from me.
Yeah.
And we have been in a mastermind group to this day for 20 years. Oh,
I love it.
But my point is, it would have never happened if I had not been drawn to this situation. And I'm sharing this story because oftentimes when we're on this path of our purpose and our passion for profit, and I tell my coaching clients, make the profit in your for-profit business and give it to your nonprofit.
Yes.
Can I say that again? Make the profit in your for-profit business and fund your own not-for-profit. And if I had not done that with the spirit of service, because none of this information belongs to any of us, that lady was brilliant. She was a marketing genius. She just took she just took my material. Yes, okay, but all of that was good. But it took me years. Okay, let's be honest, Amy. It took me years to release that and let it go when I saw the hand of God showing me that this was the
message you needed.
That was the message I needed.
So as annoying as it is, that's the message you needed.
Exactly.
I love that story. Exactly. Yeah, no worries. That story was incredible. And I also wanted to point out two other things, like, amen to your friend that was like, listen, girl, look at this person over here doing this. And you were like, that you need those kind of people in your circle. And then, the other woman that, your neighbor that became a friend and a mastermind for 20 years, when these people walk into your life as well, like, be open to receiving help, ladies. I think we get conditioned to do it all alone, figure it out. Be like this lady on stage who's like taking other people's material and marketing it. You're going to run into those folks, but you're also going to have people that are going to be on your side. And those are the folks that you just definitely need to keep there along for the ride, because it's going to be a ride.
Look for the gem in it all. Look for the gem in it all. That's the point. Look for the gem in it all.
And I love, again, your mindset. It's so clear that you live what you teach, in that sense of like, I could have gone in there and rolled up my sleeves, took off my earrings and like just went at this woman. But instead you showed up and you listened and you received and you took what, like you said, the message that was meant to be received in that moment, as hard as it can be. Sometimes a door slammed in your face or an affront is actually not happening to you. It's happening for you.
Exactly. But that's mindset. That really is mindset. And what we want to make sure we leave with the audience is that mindset is everything. Yeah. It is everything. And the question becomes, are we willing to work on ourselves like Jim Rohn saying, harder than we are working on our job and also in our businesses.
Yeah.
It's that personal work that we must do.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I joke and tell people all the time, if you ever want to learn a whole lot about yourself, start a business. As one way to get a lot of self-awareness. I think it's required for those who are successful. So a lot of our listeners are, and community members are those in digital professions and that are looking to monetize their expertise in digital marketing. Advertising is a broad spectrum and a lot of different roles and opportunities. So, you just shared like a mistake in the sense of like not making what you do a profitable niche. What are some other mistakes you see people make when they're trying to turn their skills into a profitable niche? Is there anything else we would want to call out for them?
Well, I go back to what value and what transformation do you bring? We
Mm,
hear the word a lot, but when you stop and think about why did you start the business in the first place?
mm,
You know, when you stop and think about every client is not the same. So
mhm,
the solution to that client's problem is not going to necessarily be the same. And when we walk in to do that discovery, whether it's in person or on Zoom or online, do we really listen
mm,
intently to what the need is, or do we package something where we already know this is what I sell, this is the color, you either take it or leave it?
yeah.
And there's a process called sweet spot selling that one of our members of the National Speakers Association created, where she gives three different options every time she makes an offer.
Mhm,
And the person can take option one, option two, or option
yeah.
three. And I think what happens for many of us is that we don't change the value and the benefit for the offer we provide in
Mhm.
terms of clearly listening to what the client has, but
I
also
love that. Sorry, keep going.
no, but also the industry. And
Uh-huh.
yes, one of the suggestions I'd make to all of your listeners is look, even in my profession of
Mhm.
construction,
Yeah.
look into the construction industry and connect with those individual industries for your profession.
Yeah.
For example, technology in transportation with AI is transformative.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you look at whatever it is you do, where's the money
Mhm,
for that business of yours that you're able to add such great value?
mhm,
And if you are a woman, if you are a small business, what federal, especially state and
mhm.
city areas that are looking for you harder than you're looking for them? I'm a member for a long time
Yes.
with WPO,
Uh-huh.
We Bank, and many of
Mhm.
these women's organizations that
Yeah.
hook each other up, right,
Yes.
in the profession. So those are some thoughts I would share with your
Mm,
listeners in the community,
yeah.
because oftentimes it's right in front of us, but we look right by
Yes.
it.
I love that advice. Look for people who are looking for you harder than you're looking for them. And that is the power of niching because then you are speaking right to them. And also, I wanted to zoom in for a second on that proposal. It's so true, right? We always, like, I think as marketers, and those of you who are listening, I'm sorry, we're going to feel this, but we come up with 3, 4, 5 package options and we noodle over each one of them and we spend 10 times the amount of effort to kind of come up with each of these packages to give them choice. When at the end of the day, and exactly what you said, is that you just need to focus and listen to that exact client. And you, God, what would it look like if you took all that time you just spent and put it into one proposal and said, this is exactly what you need, and this is how much it's going to cost. I'm not even going to give you options because I'm not questioning myself. I've listened to you. I'm the expert, and this is what you need. Ah, I love it. I love it. And we had a question here in the chat, so I'll pause on it. What were those businesses that you mentioned? WeBank was one you mentioned. That's the
Yes.
women-owned certified, right? What were the other two?
Women's Presidents Organization, WPO,
Okay.
We Bank,
Mhm.
WBENC. I didn't mention these, but NABO,
Yes,
National,
Napa's
okay,
great.
we know, right, NABO. Um, there is also one that came out of these, and it's called Go for the Green. And it's a conference that's held in Florida on the golf
Nice.
course for women.
Fun.
And yes. But in addition to those, many of the local cities have small women organizations. And I would strongly encourage all of your listeners, check your local city and school board agencies. They have contracts for you. And oftentimes they're overlooked because they're public sector.
Ah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Big, 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 big
Such a
opportunities
great
there.
point. Look in your
Yes.
own backyard. Sometimes we
Yes.
go reaching and it's like, oh,
Acres
they're
of
right there.
Diamonds.
Oh,
You
a
know, I
lot.
have to go there. The book Acres of Diamonds. I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you've read it, but it is one of my
Mm-mm.
all-time favorites. Yes.
Love it. I love it. We love the good book recommendations, so keep them coming and we'll
Yeah.
include them in the show notes as well.
Okay. Well, let me give you this one too, since you love a
Yeah.
good book. I talked about the 10 areas of our life. And one of my favorite family books is Seven Habits of Highly Effective Families by Stephen
Mm.
Covey.
Mm-hmm.
He has 500 references in the back of the book.
Wow. Well
Exactly.
researched. Gotta love that.
Yes. Seven Habits of Highly Effective Families. And what I like most about that particular book is that he gives us samples and examples of a family mission statement.
Oh, I love
Yes,
that.
family mission statement. So again, we're talking about mindset here.
Mm-hmm.
And as mothers, daughters, sisters, we're all a part of a family.
Mm-hmm.
And do we have a mission statement for that family?
Love it. I'm literally just adding it to my cart and buying it now. I think that's so tremendous. Well, because my kids, they're 8 and 12, and they are both just, and I know everybody's, we all think our own kids are great, but they just kind of blow my mind at their level of emotional maturity, regulation, understanding in a world where like it feels like a lot of chaos right now. And they're, as kids, exposed to so much more in the world thanks to the internet and media. No matter how much you try to control it, you can't always protect them from all those things. And yet, especially my 12-year-old, she's very entrepreneurial. And, as a family, you always do want that sense of like rowing in the right direction. And as somebody who is an ambitious, hardworking, business owning mom, there's just something I know that like that foundation has to be strong, right? If things are not good at home, it's really hard to perform well in the workplace. And that's what I love about like things like our Together Digital community is that it is the safe space to show up and be the business owner and the mom and talk about all the hard things. But I know that that's a privilege that I have. Not everybody has that. So for those of you who are listening, like if you feel like there's an imbalance in life, I love that you recommended that book. And I think there's just so much that starts within us and that starts within the immediate people that we spend the most time with, which is like our family and our coworkers, which is where we really need to find some time to spend. So, and I know my kids will love the idea of a family mission statement. Cause like I said, my son's really creative. My daughter's very entrepreneurial. They're gonna love it. So thanks for the recommendation.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Just want to mention one more before we go
Yeah.
too far. Uh, in our family, we started investing early.
Love
And
it.
when I talked about not seeing that money again and starting an investment club, it came
Mm-hmm.
out of our mastermind group. I started a mastermind group the second year after reading the book Think and Grow Rich. And from the mastermind group,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I didn't know anything about saving or investing.
Yeah.
And I read a book. Our group would read a book a month, different subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the books that we read was The Millionaire Next Door.
Mm-hmm.
The Millionaire Next Door. And in that book, it referred to a group of women in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who beat the stock market.
Nice.
And they were volunteers in an organization that was called the National Association of Investment Club. And again, I'm not selling anything.
Sure.
This is all nonprofit and everybody's a volunteer. But when you talk about families growing together, entrepreneurial families, if you will,
Yeah.
we got involved with that organization as a mastermind group, and we formed our first investment club. And to this date, I've helped to form over 20 different investment clubs.
I love it.
And with our children, I'm coming back to the children
Yeah.
who started with us learning how to invest a simple $20 bill compounded over 20 years
Yeah.
equals 6, sometimes 7 figures. Not $20 a day or a week, but a month.
A month.
And I share that because we have investment clubs, and you can go to betterinvesting.org. That's another resource for your community. Betterinvesting.org, and has a free membership at the bottom of the website for 90 days. And I will tell you, it has made the difference in, I would call it $1 million difference in your retirement by
Yeah.
learning how
Which
to
we're all going to need.
make money. Yes.
I love it. Well, and it also solves for, it actually answered my next question, so I'll probably skip to the next one here in a second. But it also does something for me that I think is incredibly important, being a first generation kid who grew up in a trailer park, is I want to create, like, it's not just about the legacy. It's not even about making the money. It is generational wealth. I want my kids to be better off than I was. I want their kids to be better off than they were, because I've seen what that privilege of just knowing how to, like you said, save or invest money, it's such an advantage. But it's like one of those things. I actually had a friend in high school who, like, she doesn't work. She has a husband who works, but she doesn't have to work, because while she was in high school, she learned how to play the stock market. Her parents gave her an allowance, and she's like, I'm not going to spend it on clothes and makeup. I am going to learn how to invest it. And now she's at home with her boys and raising them, and her husband works. And I was just like, why? And I thought she was such a dork for doing it. I was like, damn, I should have done what Kelly did. Although I love working and I love doing what I do, so I can't complain. But it's just one of those things, like, you don't realize what an advantage it is. Understanding, like we said at the very beginning, knowing how to make your money make money. We're all so busy squirreling it away, trying to figure out how to make more of it instead of making it work for ourselves. Let's get to these couple more questions that we've
But
got
can I go
here.
back? But can I go back for
Yeah.
1 second?
Oh, of course.
Amy, what I teach my coaching clients is start a free family and friend mastermind group.
I love that idea.
Keyword is family and friends. And I set a goal this year to create 50 new free, and I call it free because there are a lot of mastermind groups where you can pay lots of money,
Oh, yeah.
but this is not that. I have that too. If somebody want to do that, we can
Yeah.
talk about that offline. I do have
Uh-huh.
a niche to be rich program where you can mastermind with me and coach. That's not this conversation,
Yeah.
but you can do that. But a free family and friend mastermind group, this is the benefit and the value it would bring to your family. And I want to strongly encourage you, Amy, to consider this for your family.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, it would allow you to meet once a week
Mm-hmm.
on the family goals.
Yeah.
Start with creating a family mission statement. And again, if you want to Google Covey, he will give you that online, or you can get the book, whatever you want to do, but start there with the foundation. But as a part of that, that gives you an opportunity to sit with the children and the family, and it can be sisters, whoever you choose that you want in that group. But what I would also encourage you to consider doing as a part of that small group, start an investment club. So let's go back to your story you shared about your friend. This is an opportunity for you to also include your children in the learning of how to save, how to invest, but also how to learn how to analyze stocks. And we have chapters, we have volunteers that would help handhold. And I did say volunteers are working for free. I'm one of those. But I think that it's so very important that we know that we have options. So having our businesses are great. But what are we doing to include our family into that conversation? And that's what we've done. And so we can get, I have an information. If anybody's interested, if I can share, they can text the number 59925. Text the number 59925 and just put Ann in the chat. And I'll gladly send you the information, because my goal this year, Amy, is to create 50 free family and friend mastermind groups.
Okay. I love it. Well, and there's something to that accountability, right? We do peer groups within Together Digital for entrepreneurs, for working parents, and then we have dedicated peer groups. And a lot of people oftentimes are like, I don't have time. I'm like, it says ours are 1 hour a month, but you would be amazed how much more you get done when you have to be accountable and show up and report to others. Like, it's such a good practice to get into. So I love that advice. I dropped the number and the message request in the chat as well. So members, and listeners, you can take a look at that. All right. I'm going to ask you one more quick question here, and then we'll jump into our fun power round. But live listeners, please drop your questions in the chat if you have them. We'd love to hear from you too. The one I wanted to ask you, let me find, because we had a couple left. But I was like, this one, I think this is going to be good takeaway advice. You mentioned oftentimes in your writing and things like that, and in your talks, that success isn't accidental, it's intentional. What daily or weekly practices do you recommend for maintaining a mindset that's needed for niche success?
Now, you did not know this when you asked that question, but I have a daily date with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have a daily date with myself, and I wrote a journal book on this. It's called My Daily Date with Myself.
Yeah.
Because I believe that we are all like bank accounts.
Mm-hmm.
We must make deposits every single day, small amounts over a long period of time, because others are making withdrawals from us every single day.
Ain't that the truth?
So I start my daily day with myself as being an early riser.
Mm-hmm.
And I have an early riser mastermind group, and all we do is just say the word up. And that's a prompt
Oh,
to get up. We don't smiley face, we don't talk, we don't do anything, but just text the word up to a group.
uh-huh.
That's it. But once you get up, I would challenge you to do you. That
Mm-hmm.
could mean a number of different things. This is what I do. I meditate,
Mm-hmm.
I read, I pray, I journal, I stretch, I exercise, I walk, I take my vitamins, yes, every single day. My desire is to drink 16 to 20 ounces before leaving to go exercise. And then again, the same, before
Yeah.
showering.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts my day. It takes me, again, for me, it's a
Mm-hmm.
good 90 minutes depending.
Yeah.
When I travel, I do the same thing. So those are the deposits I make in myself, Amy, every
I love
single
it.
day. And journaling is key. It's key.
Mm-hmm. Oh, girl, I'm doing it because, like I said, I know myself in the sense that like I am better at being accountable to others than I am to myself.
Yes.
So I'm gonna start my own little morning mastermind group. So
Yes,
if
yes.
you're listening, members, and you want me to create a Slack channel for this, we could even create a Slack channel. And I love that it's like the only thing you're doing is saying up. So it's like you have because
That's
that
it.
is the hardest
That's it.
part, right? Is showing
Listen,
up.
I'll send you my group me link and you can all share it.
Okay,
It's free. We don't
I
do
love
any
it.
talking or anything. And I think Michelle from my office is here with me, but we'll send
Yeah,
that over to you because again, it's the accountability.
it
Something
is.
simple as getting up just a few minutes earlier
Mm-hmm.
to read a couple of pages and two or three
Yeah,
books.
be
But
with
also
yourself.
when you journal, what are you thankful for? What are you
Mm-hmm.
grateful for? What are the desires of your heart? But this is
Yeah.
the other thing that I do when I journal. And one of my favorite journaling books for those who are interested in learning how to journal is
Yeah.
called, is Julia Cameron's The Artist Way. And many of your listeners have
Yeah.
probably already heard this book. You read it already, Amy?
No, but I've heard of it. It's
Yes,
been on
it
my
is.
list for a while.
Well, during a period of my
I think
life,
it's one of my friend Lucretia's favorite books now that I think of it. She's the one that's
yes,
mentioned it to me a number
yes.
of
Well,
times.
listen, two times is a charm. The Artist Way by Julia Cameron.
Yeah.
The Artist Way by Julia Cameron. And just thinking about having a date with yourself. I call it a date, whether you're married, whether you're single, divorced, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Have a daily date with yourself. And even if you cannot do it every day, for the mere
Yeah.
fact that you're thinking about yourself when you rise, you pray, you give thanks, you meditate, whatever it is that works for you, make the daily deposits in yourself
Mm-hmm.
and be true to yourself to build yourself for the service of others.
I love that so much. And you know what? I think we're just going to wrap on that. We're right at the hour, and that was just such good sound advice. And I really hope that those of you who are listening, truly listened. I know it's hard. We multitask. We let our attention get pulled from other places. So this episode will probably be live and up by midweek next week. So if anybody had to bounce early, they can come back to it. But I definitely think this has been an episode that's worth listening to, not just once, but again, whenever you feel like you're starting to slip. And you have given us not just really good inspirational advice, but actionable steps in which we can take. So I encourage all of you to check out Ann and her work. And where's the best place for them to connect with you?
I think the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Ann
Awesome.
McNeil with two L's, Neill on LinkedIn.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Again, and thank you, Ann, so much. This is such a pleasure. I've had a few weeks off from the podcast, so I've missed you all. I have missed this. It's always such a good way to end my Friday with amazing women like yourself that are just doing really awesome things and sharing what they've learned and sharing that wisdom. So I really appreciate you being here with us today.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, that's a wrap for this week. I'm excited to say we are back again next week. So we hope that you'll be here to join us. I think we're talking about AI a little bit. We got to bring it back to that. We've got an expert from a local university that actually met at a recent event, and I was just blown away by her approach and her conversation and her smarts and abilities. So she's going to talk to us about how to empower your team with responsible AI, which a lot of us are advocating for and trying to work towards and getting in the workplace. But, it's not an easy challenge. It's an uphill battle for sure. So tune in next week if you want to learn more about that. Until then, everyone, keep asking, keep giving, and keep growing. We'll see you soon.
Produced by Heartcast Media.